Hey, and welcome everybody. Sherman Ray, Black Success Magazine, the podcast. Coming to you today live from Las Vegas, Nevada, where we are the center of the universe right now. We are just, we got a lot of stuff going on here in Las Vegas right now. And so today we're going to talk a little bit today about cryptocurrency. And we're going to bring on my partner in crime, Robby Thomas. So he's going to be talking because he's our resident expert, folks. You know, I got to say, I met Robby a few years ago, and never knowing that he was as astute on the whole idea and the whole thing behind, money and finance and everything else like that. And I was just pleasantly surprised when I found out about him, which is cool. And Robby's also the chairman of the Black Business Chamber of Commerce. So very excited about having Robby come on with us. Before we get started, though, I want to remind everybody that we are. You can actually get Black Success Magazine, the podcast, now on Apple Podcasts. So if you have one of those Alexa type things, you can go on to Alexa and just say, "Hey, Alexa," and this is how I would do it. I would go, "Alexa, Alexa," that kind of echoing thing, and say, "Alexa, bring up Black Success Magazine podcast," and we'll come up and you can pick. This is season 3, so there's quite a few podcasts that are out there already, and you can actually be a part of what we do. So like I said, today we're going to talk about cryptocurrency. I'd like to bring on with me my, like I said, my partner in crime, Robby Thomas. And so, Robby, how are you doing there, brother?
I'm doing great. So great to be on with you this morning, man. I'm really excited about this conversation. Really excited.
Me too. So, Robby, let's give everybody a little bit of background on you, because some people know you already. I mean, if you've been a part of the Black Business Chamber, you've been a part of anything on Black Success Magazine, you probably heard me allude to Robby at least half a dozen times. But let's formally tell everybody a little bit about you, where you're from, and your background.
Well, thanks again for the opportunity. So my background has been in the banking industry, also in the nonprofit industry for the better part of 2 decades. So, and I've worked with so many different organizations, whether it be youth organizations or community development organizations, economic development organizations, but primarily it's economic empowerment. And so I grew up in the banking industry where, I started to learn about the whole financial world, how money is being moved through economies and how money moves through communities and things of that nature. Certainly also on the individual level, things like budgeting and all those basic things and credit. So many of the financial concepts that, some of us may take for granted, but I've kind of put my teeth on those concepts. As we move more to what is happening today, I'm more of an entrepreneur, investor, sort of a consultant, also to individuals that are either starting businesses and developing, ideas for the market and things of that nature. So my interest is sort of varied, but all in all, everything is under the umbrella of economic empowerment, economic development. So that's kind of the background in a nutshell.
Wow, that's awesome. So, and so when we first started talking about, even talking about cryptocurrency, we'd actually been talking about it in terms of, oh my gosh, what is the market doing? It's just Bitcoin is going through the roof, and and we were even talking about this yesterday.
Absolutely, yes.
That you got some predictions of where you think Bitcoin is going to go. So it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, it's a very, very fascinating conversation for me. It's exciting stuff. But let me start with sort of putting some context around this exciting development around cryptocurrency.
Yeah.
When I started in the banking industry, a lot of what we had to deal with was in the analog space, meaning, we were excited about getting a fax machine when I started, right? We were excited about getting a fax machine in the office.
Yeah. Yeah. Sure.
And I started to see a movement towards more digitization. And so, people went from standing in line with paycheck to getting direct deposit. That was one major development. That got rid of a lot of paper.
Yeah.
The Federal Reserve at that time was processing tons and tons of paper. And that subtle move towards digitization helped to minimize that and a lot of stuff moving. And so gradually you started to see a lot more digitization in the banking community, in the banking world, and fintech, and how people save money. And then that's a progression towards technology.
Yeah.
So fast forward to what we're witnessing. In the advent of the 2008 meltdown, the meltdown that took place between 2005 and 2008, there was a unique individual who uses a pseudonym named Satoshi Nakamoto.
Yeah.
And he wrote a white paper on how the world can really move away from this dependency on financial institutions in a way that allowed for peer-to-peer transactions. In other words, I could send value to you over a protocol without having to have a third party be the verifying middle person. That makes any sense.
Sure. So let me slow you down there for a second though, because this guy. Now, what was the guy's name again?
This is a pseudonym.
The pseudonym, yes.
Yeah, no one really knows who this person is. It's a sort of anonymous person who wrote this paper, obviously, with this protocol, and it became this unique vehicle that started out as sort of a nascent type technology, and eventually it has grown into something people start to understand and realize how important it is.
Yeah. Well, see, the interesting thing here is the word you say is understand.
Yes.
Because right now, Bitcoin or cryptocurrency. Now we're leading up to cryptocurrency right now because like you're saying that people were this guy, the pseudonym guy, the mystery guy, Satoshi. Satoshi said, you know what? I'm tired of there being somebody has to verify that this is worth this.
Yeah.
And we've got to get rid of that so that we can, have something that once people understand it, that it becomes it has value without having a third person value it type thing. Is that pretty close what we're saying?
It's pretty close. And so one of the things that we have to adjust our thinking about is how do you understand cryptocurrency? And the way that to simplify how we understand it is what does it do?
Okay.
Right? And so when you talk about digital currencies, you have to understand it under with the understanding that it does something. In other words, it brings a kind of value to the marketplace. So let me try to break that down a bit for you.
Okay, sure.
Bitcoin is built on a protocol that uses shared ledger technology, or a technology that let me put it this way.
Okay.
If I were to send you a picture on the internet, I would still have the picture, correct?
You would still have it, yes.
I could still have the picture. Then you could take that same picture, send it to someone else, and now three people have the same picture.
Yes.
That's the problem of what we refer to in this in the industry as double spend.
Okay.
So it's the same thing with money. If you had an asset, if you sent it to someone else, you would still have the asset. So if you're wanting to use money over the internet, this was the problem that people faced, is that I could send you money but still have it. What this paper did, or what this protocol did, is solve that problem. So when I actually send something, I no longer have it.
Okay.
That's a big problem to solve in this space, and that was really what the basis of the crypto peer-to-peer movement was all about. If we could solve, because people have been trying to do this for a long time,
Yeah.
but this was actually a big breakthrough, and so it solved the double spend problem. How did you do that? Blockchain. This is where blockchain comes in.
Okay, because
Blockchain,
we
yeah,
went from cryptocurrency, now
right.
we're adding in blockchain,
They're
which is
really
another technology.
inseparable. They're really
Okay.
inseparable.
Yeah.
But here's what blockchain is. Blockchain technology allows, if I send you a transaction over the blockchain protocol, it makes multiple partners in the network are aware of the transaction. In other words, I use a ledger. That ledger automatically updates all the network in that node.
Yeah.
And so I can't say later on that I never spent that money.
Because everybody knows about it.
Everybody knows. And so this
Yeah.
is what is referred to as that whole shared ledger technology.
Okay.
And so if you're able to notify everyone in the network that something happened and they verified it, there's sophisticated mathematical equations that are done to verify that a person A had the money, person B now received the money, and everyone sort of is in balance. That money is no longer with person A.
Yeah.
All of this is happening in micro time, right?
Yeah.
So the double spend problem has been solved, and now you have a network where everyone in the network is now aware of the transaction happening.
Yeah.
Now, the way blockchain works is all these transactions are formulated in a block. So you have, let's say, 100 transactions. Just trying to simplify it. Is in a block, and that block is now complete.
Mm-hmm.
And once it's complete, you cannot change it.
Mm-hmm.
And now there's the next block is built the same way. All these transactions assembled in this block, and it connects to the previous block.
Okay.
Hence, blockchain.
Blockchain.
And it keeps doing that. So the first block has all the information of the transactions that occurred within that block up until today. What does that mean? You can't change that information regardless of what you do. It's incorruptible.
Okay. Because everybody would know.
Well, not only everybody knows, you just can't change it because everything is built upon the previous thing.
Okay.
So in order to hack a blockchain, you can't really hack a blockchain. It's incorruptible. Now, do you see some value there?
Well, sure. Yeah.
Right.
I would think people, for safety wise, people are going, well, I can trust this.
Exactly. This is the whole basis of crypto.
Yeah.
Because now you have a trusted environment where people can transact business. Everyone knows what's going on. It's a public blockchain that you can go and look at. Now, all the information is encrypted, but the idea of the incorruptible database where information is relatively secure is a breakthrough in so many different ways, right?
Yeah. Sure.
One of the biggest challenges we had recently was people like Experian and Equifax. These folks are getting hacked, right? The state's database is getting hacked.
Mm-hmm.
One of the challenges of today with all this information is people subject to having their information stolen.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have a system that prevents assets, information, things like that from being hacked, stolen in the way that it has in the past, I think it's a huge breakthrough.
Oh yeah.
Now take that technology and begin to apply it in other contexts. The blockchain is such a unique thing that, in my opinion, it's probably going to be one of the most disruptive technologies that we've ever seen.
Sure. Well, and Robby, before we move on to talk about the future of cryptocurrency and the different kinds of cryptocurrency, there's I think the biggest thing right now is that there's a lot of people just don't understand the difference between cryptocurrency. There's some old school guys like me, that are saying, you know what, I got gold in my hand. I've got gold. I know what gold is. It's been around since the beginning of time. And if I can't feel it in my hand, I don't trust it. And I
Yes.
think that's probably one of the biggest. And so before we go on to the different kinds of cryptocurrency that are out,
Right.
because there's you probably know of quite a few of them. Why should people? How is the word going to get out about people knowing what cryptocurrency really is? Because right now, unless you go on TV and so people understand gold, they go, "This is gold," and it's pretty obvious what it is. It's a piece of rock, but people have been trading it. Cryptocurrency is still very mystical.
Yeah.
Okay, how many there are, how big it is, that kind of stuff. So I think that's probably going to be one of the biggest obstacles to people understanding. Because if people don't understand it,
Yeah.
they just kind of sit back and
Believe it or not, it's really interesting to have this conversation because let's take a step back and look at the 10, probably the top 5 companies in the world. Microsoft, Apple, Amazon. You look at emerging companies like the Ubers of the world, DoorDash, all these kinds of companies. What exactly do they produce? We know Apple has products,
sure,
but Amazon doesn't really have anything. They provide a platform.
yes,
Facebook provides a platform,
yeah,
right? So if you look at how now, 20 years ago, the largest company in the world might have been an oil company, right? It would have been a retailer or some type of company like that. Most of what we're seeing is a movement towards digital platforms. Digital platforms are where the new value is being created.
true,
That's without question.
sure.
Even people
Especially in 2020, it's like
exactly
digital.
2020.
Digital is where it's at.
Exactly. I mean, the internet, right?
Yeah,
When
sure.
people started talking about, well, I'm going to put my stuff on the internet, people were laughing at me, right? Brick and mortar was the model, right?
Yeah.
So now you have the internet. The internet is a new technology that obviously is not new anymore. But what we're looking at is Internet 0.0 in the 1990s and the 2000s, Internet 2.0. Now you're looking at Internet 3.0. What is Internet 3.0? Internet of value. You can now trade value, real value, without a third party being the broker or the middle person.
Yeah.
But to answer your question, what's the value here? It takes about 1 ton of dirt to get an ounce of gold.
Sure.
Right? About a ton of dirt. And so
Or
that's
some guy
the
sitting
whole-
up in a
exactly,
some guy
right?
panning for gold and stuff like that.
1 ton of that stuff to get a little ounce of gold.
Yeah.
Even Warren Buffett said, gold is very interesting because it really does nothing.
True.
I'm not here to bash gold. Gold has been the standard in the store of value, right, for a very long time. But now you have and gold is not the only standard for money. Money has really been morphing over we've had lots of different ways of doing business. But if you look at how sort of gold is not really a type of currency that you can move easily. So if you had $100,000 worth of gold, it'd be pretty heavy, right?
Pretty
$1
heavy.
million, $2 million, $60 million worth of gold. How are you gonna move it? You can't do anything with it.
Yeah.
So it has restrictions. It's a great store of value, but it's not the best kind of currency. Does that make sense?
Sure. Sure.
So the proposition with Bitcoin in particular is that you have a unique digital asset that you can now utilize. And first of all, it's global because it's built on the internet. It's not any type of solid, recognizable type of asset that we're used to. It's a digital asset.
Sure.
And why is it a digital asset? Because through all this trusted network that someone acquired an amount of Bitcoin, right? There's a finite amount of Bitcoin. It can only be 21 million. right? And because it is a digitized asset, it can easily be moved. It can be moved throughout the world. In
Sure.
fact, Bitcoin is being used in other parts of the world where people are not as comfortable about their government currency, about their standard currency, and so you actually trade with anyone, and no one would know, of course, unless they look at
Sure.
the ledgers.
Yeah, Robbie, let me interrupt you real quick here
Yeah.
because that's I think one you said something very interesting, and about the finite number, the amount of Bitcoin there is. There's
Yes.
only 21 million Bitcoin
That will ever be.
that
Right.
will ever be issued.
Right.
And I think that's something people can get onto. They can actually go, oh, I understand inflation. I understand devaluation,
Correct.
especially in America, about
Right.
printing money. Because
Yeah.
we print money, we run out of money. So what we do is we go, what are we going to do? Let's
Yeah,
go to the
exactly.
central
Put some
bank,
more.
and we just print some more,
Right.
which devalues the money. So I think that is something people can really start getting around, and I guess the whole idea of this whole show is educating people a little bit more on what the heck this stuff is.
Yes.
It's a digital means of trade. There's a finite amount of it. So let's talk a little bit because we're going to run out of time here. My gosh, we could do hours on this thing.
Yeah.
There are how many? What kinds of Bitcoin are there right now, or
So,
cryptocurrency? I guess.
So Bitcoin is the first coin. It's usually everything else referred to as altcoins. So there's Bitcoin, and then everything else is an altcoin. But then there's a differentiation between a crypto or digital currency and a digital token.
Okay.
A token is built on a platform that already exists. So, for example, Bitcoin was the first. It's a native currency to the internet.
Okay.
And so that's referred to as the primary development. It's probably about 60 to 63% of the entire market. The market, crypto market's about 3.5, maybe $350 billion. So somewhere in that.
Okay.
And there are probably about 3,000 other kinds of digital currency.
3,000.
Yeah, they're
So
growing.
yeah, and it's growing all the
Right.
time. And that's the interesting thing about it too. So this one guy, Satoshi, right,
Yes.
comes up with this idea, white paper, says, "Hey, we got to do this." Then they come up with the actual digital currency itself,
Right.
connect it with blockchain technology, so we have security, and everybody else looks at it and they go, that's not a bad idea. So let's begin to look at our own
Right.
our own version of Bitcoin, which is, I mean, just an amazing thing. The funny thing about it, Robbie, is back in 2012,
Yeah.
I was approached by somebody here in Las Vegas, and they said, "Hey, would you like to have one of these Bitcoin exchange machines?" And I went, "No." Are you kidding me? There's just no way, because it was such a new technology that there's just no way I could get involved in it. Fast forward now 8 years later, 7 years later, and Bitcoin in those days was probably, I mean, it was fluctuating so wildly, it was
Probably
going
like
crazy.
three or 4,000 at that point. 2012 probably like $500-600 then.
Yeah. So where is Bitcoin now?
The
We'll
last
just talk about Bitcoin right now.
It was almost 20,000, 19,000 per coin, $19,100 per coin.
It's per coin.
Correct.
Let me because we've only got about 5 minutes left. We'll have to do this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it's amazing. Where do you see cryptocurrency going in the
Well,
future?
cryptocurrency is here to stay. There's no question about it. I think the government is starting to obviously respond to it. There are places in Europe and other places that have already recognized cryptocurrency as a asset. In fact, when the IRS starts to tell you, on your tax form, basically if you reported any wins or any not wins, but any gains or losses, you basically need to report it. So they're starting to reckon with this. Banks, in fact, J.P. Morgan, Chase, when Diamond talked about, Bitcoin is a fraud, he was so wrong. about what this technology represents. So everyone has gotten it wrong. And what people are starting to recognize is that this is not going anywhere. And because the real money hasn't really come into Bitcoin yet,
Hmm.
it's going to really increase the value. I mean, I have my own. I don't want to put any numbers out there only because I don't want to give people information. But I've looked at this for the last several years, um, and of what I would continue to do. But there are estimates out there that Bitcoin will eventually be anywhere from 300,000, $1 million, everywhere from 50,000 all the way up to $1 million at some point in the future. We're
Isn't that
talking about
amazing?
10 to 20 years from now that this is going to be worth that much money. And when you look at the proposition that Bitcoin presents, it is a store of value. And so it's
Yes.
going to, what they pretty much the proposition is it's going to replace gold, right?
Yeah.
Gold is probably like maybe $1,400 or so per ounce, but Bitcoin is $18,000, $19,000, $20,000 right now.
Sure.
So think about once adoption begins to happen and when the real money comes into the space, what that means, because it's going to cannibalize some of those traditional stores of values. Gold. Gold's the primary target,
Yeah.
but it also can be a currency. So that's the beauty of Bitcoin, that it can be a store of value and still be used as a currency because it has that kind of dexterity. You can use it for both.
Yeah. So Robbie, if you don't mind, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold you over for another 5 minutes
Yes,
because there's something I want to talk to you about.
sure,
And I know, do you have another 5 minutes?
absolutely.
Yeah, good. Folks, for you folks that are listening on the podcast, we'll do a second installment of this for you folks. But I want to get on with Robbie with just one more questions. So Robbie, here's the question I've got for you: is that there is gold has a utilitarian use. Okay, so it has something that we use it for. Same thing as silver, diamonds. Do you think that because my mind is saying, okay, we use gold as a standard of trade. Okay,
Yeah,
and we base our economy on based upon gold. It's backed up by gold. But if Bitcoin or excuse me, a cryptocurrency replaces that, do you think now we're going to probably just have two different value systems? Because gold will always have a value system, just like silver. Silver is used in solar panels.
yeah,
I think that I heard somebody say something very interesting. They said there are floating asteroids that are
yeah,
going around that have so much nickel in them or so
yeah,
much silver in them that it would change the economy of the world because the economy of the world is based on a certain gold standard.
right,
Okay, but if you found a planet that was half the size of the world
right,
and it was full of nickel, it would necessarily change the economy of the world because
right.
now. So do you think there? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, it's very interesting. I think, we have to change our mindset
Yeah.
and how we think about value.
Hmm.
And I think I just explained, what the large companies in the world, what they provide. They don't provide a product per se, they provide a platform.
Yeah.
Money is what we consider, uh, it's whatever consensus society sort of deems something has value. If there's a consensus around gold having some type of utility, it's basically formed by society. So what society is driving at now is what do we deem having value for us today?
Sure.
So that's really how what formulates the idea for money is what people deem a valuable type of commodity technology that can be used for us to facilitate business.
Yeah.
There is no set way that we can say, okay, gold was mandated to be money because it's different from anything else. We've used shells, we've used salt, We use
Sure.
whatever twigs and sticks or whatever it is. You can use anything for money as long as society agrees
Yes.
that this is going to be the medium by which, if it's something that is useful enough. First of all, money has some qualities that we need. It's got to be a store of value, a medium of exchange, easily transportable,
Sure. Sure.
right?
Move it
So
around.
those
Sure.
are some of the types of things that you look for in ideal money. Gold is not the best money; it's a great store of value. But
Yeah.
again, the transportability of gold is not that great, right?
Yeah.
So there are some things about the new money that excites people. And so that's kind of one of the big things. You can't move it interchangeably. You can't move it within borders as easily. So this is a challenge for a lot of the traditionalists, traditional banks that want to get fees from wires. Banks that have central banks that regulate monetary policy.
Hmm.
How does that all figure out in this new landscape? I think that's the question you're getting at.
Yeah. Yeah. Hmm.
They're finding ways to understand the technology and how to regulate it.
Yeah.
But I think once it becomes, and it's already sort of becoming very much a um, regulated in some way, it's become a little bit more stable.
Hmm.
You can now invest in crypto. You can now put it in a lot of managers, money managers are recommending that you make it part of your portfolio of crypto.
Sure.
Some
Yeah.
small percentage of your portfolio to have crypto in it. So there are some things that are happening right now that didn't happen maybe 5 or 10 years ago.
Yeah.
But the more that continues, the more this becomes the norm.
I think you're right, and as we'll continue this conversation at a later date because I think I'll end on this
Hmm.
that much as we saw in back in the '60s, we
Yeah,
were saying, you know what, there's going to come a time when they're going to legalize marijuana.
yeah,
As soon as the government is able to control it,
yeah.
that's when they will legalize it. And now we're in
Absolutely true.
2020, 4 or 5 years ago, they started going, you know what? We found a way to get this thing under control, and now marijuana is legalized in almost every state. I think cryptocurrency is that close
Yeah.
to being, um,
Well,
yeah,
well, JP Morgan Chase is already creating their own.
yeah,
The Central Bank of England is already creating their own. There's so many other major central banks that are creating their own crypto digital currencies. And
yeah,
so we know that this is here to stay. This is not going away.
sure,
And it's important for us to understand what belies. And one last point,
sure,
if you want to learn more about what cryptocurrency is, if you can go to um, coin, not just CoinDesk, but coinmarketcap.com,
hmm,
and just click on each one of those particular digital currency and find out what they do.
okay,
That's the
sure,
way you understand
yeah,
what kind of problem they're trying to solve. And that's really that's how you look at cryptocurrencies. Basically, what type of problem are they trying to solve? For example, Ethereum is a smart contract platform that I think has a lot of upside, a lot of potential. And if you understand what is beneath that, a lot of people
yeah,
look at it as, oh, it's digital money or it's some type of money that I don't quite understand. Look at what they're trying to solve, the problems that they're trying to solve, and that will give you a better understanding of what they stand for and how you can possibly learn more and get involved.
sure. Well, gosh, that's so cool. Robbie, thank you so much, folks. We've had
Yeah.
Robbie Thomas with us today on Black Success Magazine, the podcast. We will definitely have him back because Robbie is a wealth of knowledge, and looking forward to it. So once again, folks, if you liked the show today, I really encourage you to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Share this video with everybody you know, and we're going to have Robbie Thomas back here again. Robbie, how can people get a hold of you too?
Well, they get a hold of me. You can either call. You can actually go to my website at www.genrise.com. Genrise is GEN-RISE.com. I do have one quick point to make,
Sure.
and one cryptocurrency I wanted to give a shout out to is Guap Coin. Guap
Guap.
Coin is an African American owned and created cryptocurrency. And it's something that I think you want to look into. It's got a lot of promise for the African American community. And I'm certainly an investor there as well. And so I do want to make sure that we put the word out there that Guap Coin is definitely something to look forward to and to look out for.
That's right. Guap, Guap.
P, coin, correct.
Guap Coin. Yes.
Guap Coin, right.
All right, folks.
So created by African American woman.
Yeah, very nice. You know, I'll tell you, and never know, could be the next big thing.
Absolutely.
Yes. All right, Robby, thank you so much, brother. We will talk to you again. And thank you, everybody, for being a part of the show today. This is Sherman Ray, Black Success Magazine podcast. We will see you again tomorrow, 8:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Thanks.
Great talking to you, Sherman.
All right. Talk to you later.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.